ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon. Well, everyone, welcome to the Roundtable. My name is Robert Bannon, and it's another edition of the Roundtable with me. I'm so excited to be here with you today. We have an actor's actor here. They are television, they are film, they are poetry, they are podcasts. You know, are you a multi-hyphenate? That's become such a buzzword lately, right? A multi-hyphenate. I'm a multi-hyphenate. I can eat, I can watch TV, and I can lay down at the same time. I think we all are multi-hyphenates. We're all multifaceted. And some of us are even able to be into horror movies. Well, they convinced me to like a horror movie. Herd is the movie. They have a special SAG agreement that allows them to promote the movie because they follow the SAG protocol. So thank you for that. And we, of course, support all of the SAG performers out here still on strike. I'm excited to talk about Herd. It is available streaming on October 23rd, perfect in time for the Halloween season, so you can be scared. Corbin Burnson, an all-star cast, and Ellen Adair. And we are with Ellen, going to talk about it all next on the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon. All right, so acting, poetry, hosting, a Phillies fan, but we'll let that go. We'll let that go just for today. I'm born in North Jersey, so you know, I'm the Yankee side of Jersey, while the Phillies side is more of South Jersey. I'm the Taylor ham versus the pork roll. You know, Ellen Adair is here, and they are going to tell us all about the horror, and the Halloween, and the scary, spooky stuff, and some Philly stuff too. Ellen, welcome to the show.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. Yes, it's true that New Jersey is basically divided between the part of Jersey that is New York and the part of Jersey that is Philadelphia. So, I mean, I live in New York now, so I sympathize with both halves of New Jersey.
I completely understand. Reading about you and your journey and your life, you have had a little bit of a lot of things. You have the acting and the writing and the poetry and the hosting and the podcasts. And how do you define what you do? Are you just an artist, period? What do you like to describe yourself as?
Wow. Yeah, I guess multi-hyphenate. I have never actually been asked this exact question. I feel like usually people just focus on whatever is the reason that they have me on the thing, right? They're like, this person does this. I mean, I think the thing that maybe sounds a little obnoxious, but that would cohere everything together would just be storyteller. I feel like we are all storytellers, even if we're not necessarily aware that we are telling ourselves a story about who we are, about what the world is, about how the day is going, all of these things. I feel like narrative is kind of the byproduct of human life. And so I think it's incredibly important. And I think that those are the things that are the most interesting to me, you know, whether that is I am conceiving of the stories as a writer, or whether that is I am getting to embody the story as an actor, or, you know, as a baseball analyst, whether I'm like, what narratives am I going to spin out of this, you know, collection of possibly random events?
I think it's fascinating and amazing. I can relate. I think we all are, and I think that's
Mhm.
what's so wonderful. And that was such an eloquent answer, which is why you have a book of poetry out, and you can grab it right now. Curtain speech, and you're right. You write. I know that you're working on a novel. Like you have stories to tell, and we are waiting to hear them.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. I really love writing, and it's something that I've been trying to focus on a lot more. And sort of with the pandemic, obviously the shutdown was heartbreaking and was terrible for everybody. But I was kind of like, oh well, what I'd really been wanting was to like focus more on working on my novels, and so I guess I get to do that. So in some ways, the silver lining that I can personally take from the and I'm not in any way belittling the global tragedy, is just that it enabled me to become a little bit more rigorous about my writing practice, so that it's really something I do every day.
Well, people can follow you on Instagram and go to your website if they want to keep up with what's going on, so that when you have these projects come out, books, novels, movies, television, etc., we can stay up to speed and up to date, so we know exactly what what is going on now. Heard has we in solidarity with SAG and every we just always like to precursor that while the strike is going on, Heard has a waiver that is able to be spoken about because you followed the rules that SAG had put in place. I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat, Ellen. Am I going to be petrified? Tell me, what do I have to prepare myself for?
Well, you're talking to the right person because I am also a scaredy cat. So, for years, I was like, I should really do more horror movies because I am really terrified by them, right? Like um the things that are scary are very potent to me. It's very easy for me to go to those places and inhabit them. And of course, hilariously, now I've done 4 horror movies, but in most of them, rather, I mean, I'm actually like incredibly grateful to have not be a scream queen in any one of the 4. Not that scream queens aren't great. It's just like, it's I feel like I've been characters that I more strongly identify with in at least in some of the horror movies. Um, and I can't talk about all of them. I can only talk about this one. But yeah, like a number of times I was the one who was like, nah, dude, I don't know. I don't know about that. Like sort of like the skeptical friend. Um, but in this movie, I'm playing the queer action hero, which is what I would just love to do every single day for the rest of my life if I could. So, in answer to your question, I genuinely, as a very scared, like person liable to be scared by movies, there are some scary parts in Heard, but I don't think that it is like level 10 of a scary movie. So it's a zombie movie, but it's a virus based zombie movie. So rather than the undead, it is people who are sort of transformatively sick. So if anybody out there has seen the HBO series The Last of Us, I think that that's a really good comp for like about how scary it is, right? Like there are moments in The Last of Us where like, oh no, there's a bunch of mushroom zombies and we're very afraid. But then there are episodes where you don't really see any of them at all. And just as there are sections of Herd that are really more about the human dynamics and the human response to the outbreak essentially.
Well, it's streaming you could start streaming it on October 23rd, and we are
Actually, the 13th, I
oh my
believe it's coming out, yeah, spooky Friday the 13th. I
oh,
mean,
that's even better. It's even
yeah.
earlier than the original release. Okay, and here is the banner and the information, and it looks super fun and super in time for this season and for the Halloween season of it all. You mentioned we are a show very based on queer culture and the queer landscape. And if you don't mind me asking, I find your story incredibly fascinating because there's so many stereotypes about
Hmm.
gender, about relationships, about what it means to be a part of the queer community. A, how important was it that this character is a story of the LGBT plus community, and B, you made it personal to share a lot of your personal life and how you feel in this community, and how much of that was a conscious choice to try to let people be seen, and what was the reason behind sharing your journey?
Oh my goodness, there's so many things to unpack there.
I'm
So,
sorry, my
yeah,
big
no, no,
Jersey.
no. I could talk about it for like literally an hour straight. So I think it's so important that this is a queer story, this film, because I think that everything in the film, I mean, I just think it's a beautifully constructed story. Everything in the film is really about an us versus them mentality. So it is any way that people use or take to say like those are those people over there and they're not like us, and over here we're like this and we're like in opposition to each other. So obviously the movie takes place in a sort of a rural southern community, and Jamie, my character, is from that community, but she was thrown out by her dad when she was a teenager when he found out that she was queer. And so though she has is justified in feeling like she cannot be herself and that she is judged and that she is othered by the people of the community. I think what the film does also really deftly is it those people in the community are not caricatures, and they are complex, and we find out that like she has also been judging them and saying like, you're bad people, you're over there, I'm like this, I'm over here. So I mean, there are other ways that I think the film does this, but I don't want to be too spoilery, and so I'm not going to say more about that. But I think like it being a queer story, a queer love story, really is like absolutely integral to the themes and like what is actually at the heart of the movie. And for me, yeah, it's I mean, I think my journey is complicated, and I want to acknowledge first of all that like I have a ton of like cis passing, straight passing privilege, and partly that's from a kind of a choice that I made. I mean, I don't even know if I can call it a choice, when I was a teenager, and I was like, I don't feel like a woman. I don't want to be a woman. But it's so interesting. I feel like gender specifically, and I think one of the reasons that it's such a flashpoint for people is because I think it's very hard to imagine having a different relationship to your gender than you do, right? So I think people who have never had a thought like that in their life have a very hard time imagining somebody having a different relationship to their body or a different relationship to their gender. And, I feel this in part because I talk to plenty of actor friends, about gender identity, and plenty of them are like, "Well, I feel fine like identifying as a woman or as a man, but like everybody's both, right?" And I'm kind of like, "No, I feel like that's where you are in the gender identity spectrum, and you have this notion that that is everybody because that's been your own experience." I'm sorry if I said I could talk about this for like 45 minutes. So sorry if I'm monologuing. So certainly
No.
when I was a teenager, I was like, well, everybody has to know that like you don't want to be a woman and that that completely sucks. But like, look at all of these other people who are just sucking it up and doing it anyway. And I guess they have like more fortitude than me. And so I guess I just got to like suck it up and do it anyway. And like a lot of it was in relation to, I always say, betraying some lack of personal development. I've wanted to be an actor for my entire life. So some part of it was I was like, gosh, if I want to be an actor, like I have to like learn how to do that. So because that was a while ago now, like I have kind of learned how to do that. And for me it was like something that I could put on. And for some people that is not something that they are comfortable putting on because that is like the different place that they are on the gender identity spectrum. And for me, I sort of feel like I could easily comfortably put on femininity or masculinity, like neither. It's kind of like where I am in the nexus of like agender and bigender, is like I kind of feel like a neutral space that like can kind of put either on, but like neither is totally exactly me. Anyway, so I felt for a long time like it was not something that I wanted to be outspoken about because I felt a lot of, just being like completely frank, a lot of like guilt and shame about my own capitulation of myself and my own identity. And like I was not worthy to be in the queer community with so many people that like I really admire, and I admire like the bold and brave way that they were like, no, this is me. Nothing is ever going to make me change. But, in some ways, it's almost like my identity is something that feels sort of plastic, which I think has given me a lot of privilege, as I said before. So, I do really want to like uplift people who are non-binary but are more obviously gender non-conforming than myself, but like that's still what my soul is, and that's still how I feel. And I think particularly, with the rise of anti-trans just vitriol and rhetoric and violence and everything, I really felt like, no, I want to be more outspoken, and I want to be more visible about where I identify, just in order to be an ally to the people who are more marginalized. So I'm not sure if that was all of the questions that you asked, because obviously I could talk about this for another hour and a half. But yeah, I hope I hit most of the points there.
Well, I think you did, and I think you did it so eloquently. I try to explain to friends. We all, I think, if I may speak for myself,
Please, please
we
speak.
all no, thank you. We all have our own journey. I was married to a woman. I was with my ex for 16 years. I am now have a male partner. I label myself as gay and part of the queer community. It's a journey and a roller coaster. I think a lot of people get confused about sexuality versus gender. I mean, you're non-binary, you use they them pronouns, you're married to a man, and they people get they like, even with me, my own brother was like, what do you mean you're gay? You were married, you were with a woman. Like, it is such a more complex, not as black and white of an issue for people if they have always been lucky enough to be, not lucky enough, that's not even the right word, if they've always identified as the gender they are seen as, and it's typical, they don't understand necessarily the journey. What was it like when you had to share this with the world, and the pronouns and all of the things? Did you get some pushback from people in your life, and from the theater community or acting community or managers and agents who are saying, is this is not great for business?
Honestly, I haven't gotten a lot of pushback. I've gotten a lot of people who, I have told them about the pronouns that I prefer, and they continue to just not use those. Um and that's tough, especially when it's people who you're very close to and you understand that, or at least I'll just speak from my own experience. Like, I understand that, like, you have seen me as this one thing for so long, and or in some ways they just might not even see the necessity of that. So, that's something that I still kind of struggle with, because it's also not something where, and everybody like has their own battles to pick. It's not something where I want that to suddenly become the center of every relationship that I have. Um, and so yeah, but it's essentially something that I'm still navigating. But I wouldn't say that I've had any conversations with anybody where I've really felt like they're completely unsupportive, which is wonderful. And I mean, I guess, a way that I try to take it, again, it's very different for different non-binary people. But a way that I try to take it is like, if somebody chooses to hear this information about me, that are my pronouns, that are my identity, despite like the way that I might look and sound, that I just feel really seen and loved by them. That it is like a piece of information about me that they are remembering, right? Just in the way that, like, anybody might not remember whatever facts about me, like where I'm born, or like the number of siblings that I have, or whatever it is, that, if people forget, that I just try to sort of give them grace about, like, yeah, like, I'm not their number one priority all the time. In terms of the industry, my new agents have been very supportive about it, and I've even gotten a few auditions for non-binary roles, which has been really wonderful. Um, I am I have not gotten those roles, and in some ways I understand that that is part of that so much about casting is just about, like, what do you look like you are, and that I don't look like I'm that thing. So, that's one of the reasons why it means a lot to me to get to play any kind of a queer role. I do identify as bi or pansexual as well. But I understand for some people they're like, "Well, you're married to a man, and so you're not really." And I'm like, "Well, but I am attracted to women, so yeah, actually I am." um but yeah, I understand that's the kind of thing that is a thorny issue. Anyway, just, sort of to the casting thing, like, that's why it means so much to me to get to play any kind of queer character, and I feel like I can actually bring the full part of who I am to that character, even if that character does not identify as non-binary. That is not something that is in the script for Jamie, and so that is why I use she, her pronouns, for her, even though I sort of felt like I got to play her like myself, like a non-binary character. Um, so yeah, it's just kind of like, I was having a conversation with Jeremy Holm, who is a wonderful actor who is in Heard, and he is maybe the nicest person I've ever met in my life. And I've met a lot of really nice people, but like, he's always playing bad guys because he just has this face where he looks like he's a bad guy. And so in some ways, I just try to be a little pragmatic about it. Like, I know for whatever reason, I have a face where I just look like a Republican lawyer. And so I'm like happy to get to be anybody else, right? Like, that's really for me. I think my identity is very much about like the multiplicity, and I think I enjoy acting because I'm homesick for the parts of myself that I don't necessarily get to be in everyday life,
Hmm.
whatever that is, you know what I mean? Whether that's like I don't get to be like a psychopath, I don't get to be a person with bipolar disorder, or like a Republican lawyer, or like one of the 8,000 moms I've played whose children are in some states of duress. Like I'm happy to inhabit those things, even though for me personally being a mom would be a huge gender dysphoria issue. I could not do that. Can I imagine being a mom? Yeah, for sure. Like, happy to do that.
That is a really beautifully deep, nuanced answer. Thank you for that, because it is a very complex. I have many students in performing arts and in regular elementary school or middle school, etc. At the years that I've taught in New Jersey, that come to me and have questions nowadays about gender, and a lot of teachers and a lot of administrators and a lot of people who are around children or people that have a growing age, they don't understand it. They give not great advice, and you speaking out about it and being uh, showing the many different facets is something that's so important and valuable to people, because for many people it's still new, many people still do not understand, and there are many people who do not feel a part of what society has deemed them to be a part of it, and you talking about it makes them feel seen and represented. It's so powerful.
Well, I also I want to validate, and I know like I have non-binary friends who are actors who they are not comfortable playing a female role. And so my experience is different, and that's just because of like my own sort of relationship to it, and that I can imagine just feeling like a cis woman, and I actually kind of like the freedom of just being like, yeah, like, I don't know, like I played a burlesque dancer once, and like I could never do that in my real life. But if I'm just like, yeah, I'm playing this person who has this totally different relationship to being a woman and being their, being in their body. And like that's actually very freeing for me to get to imagine that. So for some people that wouldn't be freeing for them. And like I just any young people who happen to be listening to this, if you're like, oh, that is not for me, that's fine. Like for me, I just feel actually like the most expressed when I get to be something that I am not, I guess.
Yes, and that's what makes you such a great actor. And that's why we have to all be watching Herd when it comes out this month. And it's got an amazing cast, and what a great story, and it's perfect for the Halloween season for sure. Okay, I cannot let you be here, as I mentioned in the opening, without this little confrontational moment, Ellen. When did you love baseball? When did this become, as it says on your bio, an obsession, an unhealthy obsession?
Unhealthy
And,
love of baseball, yes.
right. What about it? And how did it transition into being a part of your business and who you are? I mean, speaking about it, podcasts about it, hosting shows about it. When did you become an analyst?
Yeah, excellent question. I mean, the first one I don't have a set I well, actually, I don't have a super satisfactory answer to either of these questions because I've loved baseball for as long as I can remember. I don't remember not loving baseball. Like, I don't remember not loving my parents when people are like, "When did you decide to love your parents?" I'm like, "They've always been great. Like, I love them." Like, so yeah, I just, like, loved it from when I was a tiny, tiny child. I my first memory of going to a baseball game is, like, being excited because I had already been to a bunch of other baseball games and I knew exactly what I was expecting. So, in terms of sort of the transition to being an analyst, I have really, just slipped into it kind of by accident, and I'm just very grateful for it. It was a situation where, I I don't know how public I should be about this, but I was posting a lot about baseball on social media because social media is something that I continue to struggle with. I think that's fair to say. But I had a talk with my wonderful and supportive manager, Sid Levin, whom I love like life itself, and she was like, "Yeah, but you don't get to not be on social media. Like you have to be." Um, and like it was actually super helpful because I was like, "Oh right, it's just my job. Like it's just my job. I have to do it. I just have to treat it like anything else in my job." And that was helpful. But I was like, "Well, something that doesn't make me feel gross to talk about on social media is baseball, right? Because it's just like something that I love, and it's just, it's just simple, and like you're not gonna get the people writing back at you if you're like trying to post about a cause, just being like, you're just virtue signaling. And I'm like, no, I really care about this thing. Like just the kind of crazy feedback that you get for just like existing on social media. So I was like, all right, well, baseball, I love baseball. I'll connect with other people who like baseball. And so it was essentially out of that, right? Out of being an actor that like you probably haven't seen on television, but you could have. Um, uh, People were like, "Oh, it'll be fun to have them on our podcast." And so I did a bunch of baseball podcasts, and from there, folks at MLB Network heard me on baseball podcasts just talking about baseball, and were like, "Hey, come on MLB Network and talk about baseball." So I do that sometimes, and I just have a blast.
What a dream! What
Yeah.
a dream! Even if it's the Phillies, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. No, kidding. You have
Look,
the
I mean,
best.
I'd rather be a Phillies fan than a Yankees fan this postseason. Just
Oh,
zing.
the shade of it all. That's true. That's fair. And you do have the best mascot. I mean, it is a really fun mascot.
Thank you. I mean, I agree that the Philadelphia Fanatic is like objectively the best mascot in sports. And when people try to tell me that it's something else, I'm like, you're just wrong. Like everybody's entitled to their opinion, but yours just happens to be wrong in this one instance.
I, I I completely understand. I have a love for baseball. I was very sick as a high school student. I had meningitis for years. I was struggling with
Mm.
chronic Lyme disease, meningitis. The meningitis, I
Oh my
couldn't watch
god.
TV. I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't be around light, but I could listen to 770 WABC from 7 till 10:30 or whatever date time the games were of the Yankees because it was just the conversation and it kept me entertained. And I fell in love with being a Yankees fan, not because I'm born in 83 and they 96 and 98 and 2000 all the years that they won, not because of that, but because they were my friends when I was not in school, and baseball is a place for people to gather and to watch and root and cheer and joke with one another. So I was so excited to talk to you about it because I'm quite the little baseball fan myself.
I totally feel that. So a weird biographical fact about me. I grew up without a television. I did not have a television
Yes.
until 2010. So like baseball on the radio was also how I mostly received it. I mean, I remember as a very small child for the 1993 uh, Phillies bid for a championship. Obviously, they did not win that year. Thanks, Joe Carter. Uh, we like went to a neighbor's house and watched them on television, and I was like, that's what they look like up close.
Wow. So and
They'd
now
seen
you're
them
on
like teeny
television.
tiny, on the field. But like yeah, anyway, it was a crazy experience. So yeah, I feel like the sound of a baseball game on the radio is just like the sound of my mother's heartbeat. Like it's just so
Yes.
comforting.
Yes. Well, I can make you this promise. I can go to a Phillies Mets game and cheer for the Phillies with you. I
Great.
mean, I could do that. I could go to City Field and wear a Phillies uniform. So I'll make that compromise. I
Excellent.
can do that. See?
I strongly believe in just having a flow chart of baseball allegiances, so
Oh,
like I can just chart all 30 teams so that then any random matchup I can be like, who am I rooting for in this one? It's this. So like at the start of this year, I was like, and I do evaluate, I mean, I don't literally create a flow chart. Many people like to believe that I do, but I do evaluate like, okay, so I like these two teams, but if this team is playing this team, who am I really rooting for? And at the start of this year, I sort of realized that the Diamondbacks are my second favorite National League team. So like I'm glad that the Diamondbacks are in it too. It's just it's an embarrassment of riches.
I, I went to one World Series game. It was the Arizona versus the Yankees. It was the series that the Yankees lost. So I'm not the biggest Arizona Diamondbacks fan,
That's fair. That's fair.
but it's okay. I like them. Their logo is nice. Their colors are nice.
I just like their players. I really love Zach
Okay,
Gallen and
you have a
like
good
Ketel
answer.
Marte and Corbin Carroll. Like I just love those guys so much. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
That's why my allegiances will shift. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, well, what team has like the most players that I'm like, oh my God, I love this guy so much. Yeah.
you are so multifaceted and fascinating, and you are a no, truly, you are a changing example of what are so many stereotypes and social norms are in our head. And I'm like so obsessed with all of that you do, from the writing to the acting to the speaking out to the baseball. I get it. I just get it, and I'm so excited to see what's next.
You are so kind. I feel like perhaps that fascinates you because you are clearly also a person who like has a million different ways that your talent and your light shines in the world.
Well, I try. I mean, I teach fifth grade. I do this. I sing. I act. I go to a Yankee game. I could do it, and I feel like it's a blessing and a curse for us, right? Because I can't sit still too much. I love to just share and be and talk to people like yourself. So the
Well,
honor is all
thank you.
mine.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm not going to allow that because I want at least half of the honor. Certainly the honor is half mine at the very least.
Deal. Okay, we'll share it. And we'll be streaming. We'll be streaming. My partner is out in Detroit, and we sometimes have movie nights where we stream the same thing and we comment and share. He's way more brave than I am, so get ready because I'm gonna need all the help to get to sleep after Herd comes out. We're gonna be streaming and watching and downloading, and you can order it and watch it and however you watch your movies. And Ellen, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Oh my goodness, such a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, how about that? Philadelphia, fanatics, cheesesteak, no television, non-binary, loves baseball, married to a man. That's what's so amazing. The world, you make your own norm, you make your own rules, and do not let society and lawmakers and people that pretend to be in charge who have all these messy secrets in their closet tell you what to do. Make sure you stream Herd. We support the actors. We stand in solidarity with the actors. We thank the producers of Herd and the people behind Herd for following the rules so that we can talk about this movie, and all the studios can follow the rules. We're not asking for that much as actors. We're just asking for our fair share of the pie. There's plenty for the CEOs, etc. Please, the money from streaming does not go to our pockets as consumers. It goes in, or the actors, it goes into the CEOs of these corporations. So let's keep it real. I'm looking forward to more shows. We have shows all month long, and we're live back on Thursdays with Anne Margaret. And Margaret's are kicking off our first Thursday. So make sure you watch us, follow, download, stream, tell a friend, all the fun things that you do here at the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon. If you want more information about me, go to robertbannon.com, go to @RobertMBannon on Instagram, or the Roundtable with Robert Bannon on Instagram. I have a new album coming out. I'm turning 40. We're going to be celebrating all of those things. I look forward to seeing you and talking to you more in the coming weeks and days. We have huge guests, huge shows. We're the Roundtable, where artists come to talk about art. Everybody, the best is yet to come, and I'll see you again real soon. Good night.